Hi. I have no idea what's going to come through tonight. I have no idea at all. I'm actually I should know better than to get worried, but I'm already just a little bit worried because so far nothing has come in. Usually, like I was prompted to do this earlier, and I couldn't get any time alone in the house. My daughter had a friend over, and the bedroom door has been slammed off the hinges, so I knew that there wasn't going to be, I knew there wasn't going to be any privacy. Since I have no place to put the dogs, I have no place to put my daughter where I'm not heard. But they told me to do a live stream, and the only thing I know about this live stream right now is that I know that the connections are being checked. Sometimes they want me to, as I speak, the connections, the connectivity is being checked for breaks. So we're trying to find out where, basically just where the breaks are. If you go back, if you've been watching my live streams, they're sequential. And I always connect. I know that my speech patterns are markedly different when I'm talking to one person than when I'm talking to a group of people. And depending on what strata of energy, like where I'm reaching to receive the energy from, if I'm getting a large quantity of energy from very high up, it dramatically affects my speech pattern. And I know that when a lot of people come on, that also dramatically affects my speech pattern, and it makes me much harder to understand, a lot less linear. But recently, I know that I've become aware that there was a tremendous amount of interference over the last 6 years. I was prevented from doing certain things 6 years ago, and the interferences have there was almost like a slice, not slice, the wrong word. There was almost like a definitely a barrier, but it looks like a thin sheet of, I want to say metal, preventing my energy from coming all the way down to the ground. And I've been also prevented from fully accessing my first and second chakras. I've been unable to ground into my my root chakra. And for those of you who are energy healers, it's not that we don't know the techniques, it's that this had some sort of divine purpose, but then there was also interference because this is group energy, not just mine. So the rules are different. They really are different in the third dimension, or when you're dealing with an individual, than when you're dealing with a group. And this is group energy, and there was significant interference. And they're trying to check. So we've been working on this a lot. And right now, I know they're checking to see where there are still disconnects. So I'm not even so sure that there's necessarily a ton of information, at least not that I'm aware of yet. But certain things I know are upcoming. There's going to be some kind of reclamation of money. We've been waiting for that for a really long time. Some kind of reclamation about money. There was, I'm aware that a certain amount of forgiveness is coming in. I'm aware that there's a group of us, or I'm not entirely sure it's a group. Somehow I know that there's chunk money coming, and I don't know if it's the RV or what, but right now, the only thing I know right now is that in this transmission, they're checking the circuits again. Circuits may be the wrong word. They're checking the connections to see to what degree our higher dimensional network is established and running. They're checking like the channels, the tributaries, it's basically just a circulatory system. But it has to be up to a certain degree connected before we can reach the ground and receive the money, because otherwise it would short out and it would cause further damage. So we just have to make sure that's going to happen. This is my little guinea pig. I figured since it's testing, we're going to hold her today. Some people had mentioned that they don't like snakes. And I was going to talk about how to reframe that. I said that my next live stream, that would be this one. Oh, actually, that means that this is number 10. Number 10 live stream. So it's 1 for new beginnings, thought, sovereignty, individuality, and 0 for God source, 0 point, the field of all creation, basically God source. So this is new beginnings. So it's appropriate that we have our guinea pig here for testing. I've got 2 guinea pigs. One is Sister Celery. She's in the cage over there. And this one, as of yet, is still unnamed. We're not really sure. She's a calico guinea pig. My daughter's name is Calico, named after the horse that ran away with me when I was 13 for over 2.5 miles, which is a really long time for a horse to run away with anybody. That's a really long time. Someday I'll tell that story. It's significant. Patterns repeat until they're changed. So I know that there's something coming in, and I'm not entirely sure. Let's see. So we're going to talk about how to reframe something such as snake phobia. And I'm wondering if, so it was interesting that the last time we were talking about breaks in communication, and Kenji, who had been coiled around my neck and is orange, so that's has been a break in my expressive capacity, creative capacity, because he's orange. And he was around my neck. And then, even though he wasn't trying to strangle me, he moved off my neck. So that's an opening of that channel. But snakes, I would encourage you, for those of you who have snake phobias, rather than seeing a snake and feeding the fear, agreeing that that's the case, so we're going to avoid it, I would say reframe it whenever possible, because your mind is going to be the thing that does the freeing. And if you say, I'm going to avoid this fear, then you're actually going to just leave it there. You're never going to deal with it. If you have and I'm not judging you, I'm just saying this is the way to get out of it. This is what I did with snakes and spiders. I was very scared of spiders when I was young. And we had wolf spiders in our house. And I was actually thinking of getting a tarantula because I really have a strong urge to love the unlovable, or what we think of as unlovable. Those are the animals that I really want to collect in addition. I want to include them in the spectrum. A couple of people actually have said that they don't like the snake around my neck. I don't know if it's the snake or if it's the fact they don't like it around my neck, but I figured I would talk about a way to reframe that. He's also, he's an incredibly personable snake. He will go to me as opposed to anybody else. Personable isn't even the word. He's actually affectionate. My daughter can take naps with him, and he seeks people out. So whether it's ingrained pattern or something in your ancestry, I would say that if you're scared of snakes, you can kind of take command of that idea and say, this is something I'm going to fix. And if you look at a snake and see the snake as your ally in transforming your fear, if you look up snakes as totem animals, they stand for transformation. They shed their skin, so it's a shedding of the old identity. And they stand for transformation, flexibility as well. If you can view, if you want to get rid of a snake phobia, I would say start by viewing the snake as a being. This is a conscious being, a sentient being, who is showing up to give you the opportunity for the transformation that you're seeking. It's a snake will show up and say, how would you like to transform some fear? Here I am. And this is your ally, actually, not your enemy at all. If you reframe the enemy as your ally, and allied in the change, and they do stand for change, you're going to get a good success. I would say, you know, wherever two or more are gathered is one of the truths in the Bible. You can you can have an expansive experience with another being who thinks differently from you. This is an opportunity for expansion. It's an opportunity for increased love. This is something that interspecies communication altogether teaches you this. Horseback riding, learning horseback riding is just an exquisite exercise, teaching tool. It's not ever about dominion. It is all about harmony and how to communicate with another being whose whole experience of the world is different from yours. You know, they don't see straight ahead. They're prey animals, so they have a wide, expansive vision, but they don't see directly in front of them. We do. It becomes very much learning how to navigate in motion in a cooperative way with another being who experiences the world differently, but the two of you are in cooperation. And this is one of the things that I feel very strongly needs to be brought back into schools. Animals all together. One of the reasons that we need to bring back and teach telepathy, interspecies communication, bring animals back into classrooms, have as many plants there as possible, teach nurture of one another and other life forms. That really needs to be something that is, connection needs to be encouraged strongly. And one of the reasons this is so important is because of disclosure. Most animal species communicate in a way, they communicate with emotions and moving images. They will communicate emotional images. So as we discover collectively, in the collective consciousness, as it comes out that aliens actually exist, linear communication is going to be a joke. This isn't the higher level of consciousness, higher level of communication. A more fluid level of communication is telepathic. You communicate in images and feelings and emotions, and you utilize all your senses, and this is actually the connectivity of the future. Linear structured school has had its time, but it's really dead. I mean, you don't teach cuneiform. If somebody has an interest in that, you can go back and learn it, but there's a reason it died. It's incredibly slow and cumbersome and painfully slow to those of us who are who function in higher dimensions. To give you an idea of what it's like, how do I want to say this? Having a conversation from the perspective of someone like me who's very comfortable with telepathy and has a certain speed going forward, and most of us in higher dimensions, even when we are physically embodied, etc., we have a certain comfort or certain speed that we prefer to go at. It's comfortable. And I'm sure if you're listening to this, you probably, there's a reason certain people drop from your life, like a lot of your, 3D based friends and family members. They tend to go a lot slower. They need things explained, or not, or you just don't have anything in common with them anymore. There's a reason people drop out of your sphere. And sometimes having to talk to people when you have when you're awake, trying to talk to people who have yet to awaken without judgment, it can feel so painfully slow. Like if you had to spell out all of your conversation, for those of us who are used to using telepathy, having to spell out our conversations with, a 5-second gap between letters. It is that excruciatingly painful trying to wait, and, we get distracted and we leave because it's too painful. Or just it's infuriatingly slow. So this is one of the things that getting these two realms to merge, the higher dimension, also like the children on the autism spectrum, anybody on the autism spectrum, who are at these very high vibrational levels, mainstreaming them is not going to lead to any less frustration from them. It's still going to be horribly painful for them. It's going to be easier to, for those in lower dimensions who have been linear, to learn to use their telepathy and meet their autistic children or meet the higher dimensions. They're going to be able to find expansion that way. And that is the way that the planet's going anyway. So I would encourage that. I know that they're just checking. It's the energy of this feels much slower, doesn't it? It's going slower. It's more steady. I'm still swaying, but it's not, it doesn't have the agitated electric feel that it did. So I just wonder what's going to come in. I know that Notre Dame was huge. The fact that burned, the collective tower moment, particularly for those of us in our population, which is the Joan of Arc collective body, that has been a massive, massive turning point. The big tower event that is purification by fire. And I wept, absolutely. But it's also, this is the point that we were waiting for. We knew that the church was coming down. I don't mean the physical structure, but I mean the 3D paradigm. That's gone, and this is every force evolves a form or a circumstance. Is this significant? Of course. Of course. It also marks the rebirth, and this stream marks a rebirth. And it's a rebirth of us as a collective. One very interesting thing that happened, I'm always looking for I'm always reading form and circumstance. Yesterday was significant for, I recognized a pivot point yesterday before I knew, before I heard about Notre Dame. I knew it was some kind of a pivot point because my daughter asked me if, out of the blue, if I could take her and 3 of her friends, so it's 4 girls, asked me if I could take her to Anna Devine, which is the school in Riften that I was trying to buy for 5 years, and we got massively interfered with. We couldn't pull it off. It's still a very important point. It's an important location. You wouldn't think so. It's a tiny town. But there's an elementary school there that has deep significance. Energetic significance. Right now, it is still held by the third dimensional construct. We took certain steps. What is that? We took certain steps to kind of secure the energy of the location so that it didn't perpetuate. We put up barriers so that it was no longer flowing out. We sealed it off and we rerouted the positive energy differently, but it's still locked. Right now it's still kind of in lockdown, or it has been. So yesterday, and they did stuff to it. It's like it has been going in a stiffer and stiffer direction. Like every time I go there, I watch what they've done on the property, and I know what certain things mean. You know, they cut down all the trees, they ripped up the playground, but not before they burned everything on there. It's their dark force. I'm not talking about the people. The people know nothing about this. The dark forces are directing the people to kind of obliviously make certain decisions that seem, they're just kind of drifting. And so the playground seems like a logical place, or, you know, to have a bonfire, since you want to get rid of like shrubs and stuff. But on a higher level, I can tell you the dark forces decided to burn the playground, and then they ripped it up. Anyway, it's still kind of a battle spot. And I went there yesterday. Calico asked me to drive her and 3 friends there, and I went in the back. There's also a fairy nesting ground that I think I'm going to try and put up. I took some footage of it on, I did a little short video of the rushing water, because in the spring, you can usually see them really well. There's, nesting ground is probably the wrong word for it. It's a, it's not a nesting ground. What do you call it? You know, it's like one of those places where, you know, like certain animal species will have a location where they go. And anyway, I just happen to know that there's a particular section of a wooded area where there's a creek that runs through it, and it has particular elemental features that makes it a ideal location for fairies and other things too. It just has particular properties, and I know that it's significant. I know it's supposed to go with the school. So there's been I also, when I walked back there yesterday, I haven't been there in some months. I used to go there every single day and spend hours and hours and hours there. I've been there with teams of people. We were working on the property energetically when we were trying to get it. And now it's been leased. So it's still kind of up in the air. There's like this energy vying for it. It's been leased for 10 years. So that's significant too. I'm still hoping we can secure that property. At any rate, I went there yesterday. I made note of certain things. Certain trees that have been cut down, the fruiting trees were pruned back. They've done certain things to it. And since I knew the property so well and what was growing there, I recognize it when certain beings have been removed. When you cut down a certain tree, just certain things have happened that weren't productive in terms of benevolent flow, but they're productive in terms of locking down control. So it has a very different feel. But I went back yesterday. The interesting thing, though, is that yesterday, after not being there for a while, my daughter and 3 of her friends, there's 4 young girls, and they asked me to drive them there, and I drove them there, and then I went walking out, in the back with the dogs, and I spent some time in the woods. There's been a tremendous amount of, a notable amount of wreckage in the woods. I mean, trees fall, but this is after, I don't know, you spend enough time in woods, you know when something is distinctly different, and this time something is distinctly different. There are major trees that have come crashing down. There's old growth that is missing. There's cleanup. The tending is no longer taking, there's been a gap in it. There's been a gap in benevolent maintenance, and major trees came down. So but then I noticed that, and I did my fairy work in the woods, because I always do. I did all my nature ceremonial kind of energy shifting, and I kind of checked in with elementals, and I enlisted help for and from them. And I set certain offerings, like I always make little fairy houses, because it does actually matter, offerings. I took a little bit of photographs. I wanted to see if the fairy lights, I see them in the air, and I wanted to know if that would come out. So I'm going to put that up later if I can get it on, see if it reads on Facebook. See if it reads all together. I had no idea. I just can see them in the air. I can sense them in the air. So I just held up the camera, and you can get a little sense of what it looks like back there. At any rate, but when I got, so interesting thing though, because when I came out of the woods, my car was on. And, my daughter had started it, and this was very funny because my daughter and her friends had ordered a pizza. So this is significant. So that's funny. It is funny. They had it delivered to the car. So I think that was funny. But one of the symbolic, as someone who reads symbolism, I can see, particularly because it's a pizza, and my guides have been mentioning pizzas for a long time. And I know that I've been asking, where is the break? Where's the disconnect? Because we're talking about, I know that we've been working on reconnecting everyone that needs to be in place for the financial system. I know what the construct was doing, and I know that it was screwed with. It was tampered with. Tampered with hard. We didn't get what we were supposed to get. We were unable to move forward. We were unable to secure that property. It was important. So I've been saying, where the hell is this thing? Where is the break? And I was also told that certain people were being taken out. So I'm wondering what's going on. And in 2000, I should give you a little bit of background. In 2013, I think 2013, maybe 2014, early, I was the whole twin flame dynamic has been really important too. In 2014, my guides told me that they told me that there was a toxic blue whale, except it wasn't a nice blue whale. It was like a symbol, a toxic blue whale that was coming out of the ground underneath, like around my ex-husband's house. That it was this massive toxic horror that needed to be digested. And they said that is basically my stored memories from the Joan of Arc lifetime. And they said when all of this was processed and digested, they were going to give me a pizza party. This is the way they phrased it. I was going to get a pizza party for me and one other person of their choosing. And then shortly after that, I learned about twin flames, and it's going to be, there's going to give me somebody and they showed me 2 pizzas. That's the thing. So if you know anything about the twin dynamic, it's somebody who has done their healing and somebody who has done their healing. Somebody who has processed all of their own shit, reclaim, you know, it's basically the reintegration of all of your pieces. And it had 2, I saw 2 pizzas. So when you've processed all of your stuff, they told me when I had fully digested this blue whale, basically reclaimed all of that, consumed it and processed it, it was all done, then they would give me a pizza party for me and one other person of their choosing. They wouldn't tell me who it was. So yesterday, oh, and then also in 2014, I was purchasing a pizza. I went to King's Pizza. It's up the road from me, King's Pizza. And we ordered a pizza and I was paying for it. And just as I was paying for it, I wasn't thinking about twin flames. I wasn't thinking about anything. I was just thinking about buying the pizza. And all of a sudden there was this tug from like right in my solar plexus. I kind of felt stabbed, but yanked. And I was instantly aware of for some reason, the amount of tension that my twin flame was in with his wife. They were having a fight. And there was a huge amount of tension related to something. But as soon as I was trying to purchase the pizza, I got yanked like there was just this huge amount of tugging. Like, no, 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 you can't have it. And so that was some years ago. But anyways, so pizza, particularly a full pizza, represents you getting, you know, not just a piece of the pie, but everything that's yours, if it's your pizza. So yesterday, before I knew about Notre Dame burning, I was in the woods again at Anna Devine. And I cannot tell you, I'm not trying to be obsessive, but there is something about this property that my guides have been saying, they told me this in 2013. They're like, this was made for you. We made this for you. Everything on that property was built to reclaim the energy from the Joan of Arc lifetime and redress it. Fix it. We have to fix it from that location. It's not just about me being obsessive. There is something that needs to be redressed. We have to go back and adjust it. I was prevented from getting it. There has been severe interference. So it's interesting to me that yesterday when I was at Anna Devine and I was way back and in the woods and I was talking to the elementals and the fairies and the newts, and I was looking to see if I could see any of the crayfish there. I was looking to see, like, I know where everything lives. That's the thing. I know everyone there. I know all of the beings. I know the rocks, they speak. I know the moss, it speaks. I know where the newts live. I know where the water snake lives. I know where there are certain nooks in the rocks where certain crayfish live. I know them. And I recognized that the place was there, but it feels very much like, you know, for any of you who've read Narnia, The whole series. You know when, oh, I'm gonna cry. You know when they plant all of those apple trees, knowing that they're gonna go away for a long time, and when they come back, they're gonna need to eat? It felt very much like that. It feels, when I go there, very much like a homecoming, like we've been waiting for you, where are you? That's how it feels. The entire place speaks. Years ago, I used to take teams of people there, and we had colored chalk, and we drew all over the building. And the building is brick, so a lot of the chalk, we drew hearts all over the building, rainbow hearts all over the building. And it rains, and you go back and you draw them again. And we wrote words of love. We've just done everything to change the energy in this property. We have buried crystals. We planted flowers. We planted a lot of stuff. We picked up trails. We filled in holes in the dirt. We we did ceremonies where we were welcoming the animals. We worked a lot in the woods. We picked up the like, you know how like people used to dump their garbage in the woods. There's I went there the first year. I spent every single day there digging broken glass out of an old dump. Broken glass and like tailpipes from automobiles and rusty metal, and oh, please don't eat that. I just pulled stuff out of the ground because there are woods. There shouldn't be trash there. It was my intention to make a school there that was half in the school and half in the woods. I didn't want that stuff there. You know, I can't have kids walking around with their broken feet, and also it just shouldn't be in the ground. So I pulled that out, and then I took it home to the dumpster and threw it out. But those woods were groomed. I groomed the trails. I moved the sticks out of the way. We made fairy houses, we made, deliberate acts of beauty. And I went and I did this for 5 years. So yesterday when I was there and I came back to the car, my white van, because I used to have a car that was the blue van, and it was filthy, and we called it the Blue Whale. And now I have a white van, and it's covered with the bumper stickers, the kind I would have, covered with bumper stickers. And I've got to, hey, cut that out, don't chew that, it's my tablecloth. And I keep my car immaculate. By the way, it's really a sacred space. I've got it full of crystals and sage spray, and it's like the dashboard is an altar. And nobody, I never keep garbage in my car, and I have it cleaned regularly because it's your vehicle. It's not just a symbol. It is I don't know what to call it. It's an extension of you. It's your space. So I keep it very clean. But I noticed it. So yesterday when I came back, and there were 4 girls in the car, and they had ordered a pizza. So my car now has a full pizza. So that was significant, particularly because I recognized it as a new beginning. I've been watching the energy. Also, do you notice that the way my speech is now is slower? It's lower. There's much more of a continuity. And even though I have no idea what I'm going to say, it's different. Now, it's not quite as frenetic. It's a little bit more like the way I talk when I'm speaking to one person. And that's because there are fewer breaks in the connective circuit, the circuitry of all of us, which is what it needs to be. We're trying to get back to being all one. And it's paving the way for group telepathy. We're going to need that. I don't quite understand I don't know the way it's going to work out with that location. I couldn't tell if I was supposed to be saying goodbye to it for a new beginning, or if, would you stop eating that? She's eating my, my rainbow runner. Stop that. It's definitely a new beginning, but I couldn't tell if it was, anyway. They've done a certain amount of work on the property that has made it exactly what you think it would be, but it's very three-dimensional. And yes, it's clean, it's functional, whatever, but it's also very, it's very 3D and sterile looking. For energetic flow, it doesn't serve energetic flow on that property at all. And do they know about anything about ley lines? No. I know that it's not working. It feels like a, you know what it feels like? It feels like, have you ever had a, like a hard knot in your muscle or something where it's just like lactic acid buildup or something that's just really, really stiff. But in that spot, it's a little bit like a tumor. Things need to be changed there for flow to happen. I'm still really hoping we can reclaim that spot, but I'm trying not to get fanatic about it. I'm really trying not to get fanatic about it. There was a point that, because, I know this wasn't mine necessarily, because of other elements in the energetic construct. Hang on a second, I have to get a tissue. Just a second. Just a second. I'm gonna put my pig down. Hang on. Now you're squealing. Where was I? Oh, because of certain elements, that certain factors in the construct that I was in, because of certain imbalances and disconnects will cause certain things to happen that are not conducive to unity, obviously. So when that happens, things get very off balance, and my energy, certain things got very fixated, and because they were in the portion of the circuit that was connected with mine and went very fast, it was like mentally, it turned into kind of obsessive thinking, focusing, hyper-focus on one thing. That doesn't happen when the thing is flowing correctly. That's one of the reasons, in fact, a lot of things are going to heal. A lot of things that look like something but aren't really, like when all the, for lack of a better word, circuitry is fully functional, we're not going to have certain abnormalities, things that really seemed abnormal. And of course, it's going to seem abnormal if you're looking at it through a third-dimensional lens. There's only certain things that that you identify as being normal. And anything outside the box is, you know, you say it's abnormal. But that's really because you just don't know what it is yet. And as we reconnect, the actual structure, the elements of the structure which were not working, which were creating an artificial matrix, that's leaving. And incoming is the unity, which is the natural connectivity, and that is going to be restored. So it was extremely significant when I came out of the woods, discovered the pizza in my car with 4 girls, and 4 laughing girls eating pizza. And then they said, Notre Dame is burning. And then I went on my phone and I was like, holy crap. That's one of those things, talk about death and rebirth. I mean, my God, that is the ultimate tower moment. Particularly in France, in Paris. Oh my God, of all things. And it's the Twin Towers, right? And you've got the spire, but you've got these Twin Towers of Notre Dame. So it's the tower moment for them. It's a collapse and a new beginning. It's a flip. So I'm going to be watching this really carefully. Does it relate to us in this group? Holy crap, yeah. So I don't have a lot to say about that yet. I think they're just, do you see how there are fewer breaks though now? In this group, it's not just this group, it's the way I'm speaking. Like the long break is kind of like me thinking, but my whole speech pattern is more steady. And they're checking, I'm just aware of it. I'm aware that they're checking to see where the breaks are. So what else did I need to say? I know that there's going to be information, so much information coming out. I've been told that I'm going to be reassigned. I'm being reassigned somehow. And I'm not entirely sure what. I think they're not telling me yet. They're not telling me yet because sometimes they like to drop something on me because they know they're trying to avoid me getting triggered because I'm still carrying a lot of people. And I'm carrying a lot of, not as many as I used to, but they're going to send energy, certain transmission through me. And there are certain things that I still, it's like the whole Joan of Arc, what? Mission? Is it a mission? It is a mission, but it's, I don't know what to call it. There's like a completion. There's something that still needs to be completed. There's something that still needs to be completed. And it's this particular thing that I kind of know what it is, but they won't tell me how it's going to happen because, and I know this part I know. They don't want me to seize. I don't mean like seizures. I mean like, they don't want me to get triggered. I think it has something to do with fame because I've been told that there's global fame. There's some kind of a very, very abrupt jump. And there's something there, like here's the way it works. Has worked. And I think that there was a protective mechanism in it. Yes, there was. But it was also interfering. There was interfering and a protective mechanism. You know, like there, if you can take one element, it has a good quality and bad quality. This has had a very protective influence, but it also interfered significantly. I think it was running backwards. I actually think it was running back. Actually, it was running backwards. They're giving me a yes. There was something that somebody didn't protect me. They protected somebody else from a misunderstood threat. They thought something was a threat that was not a threat, but they protected the wrong person. There's like a wrong population or something. Anyway, it went the wrong direction and it needs to come backwards. Backwards being the wrong word. There needs to be a redress. That might be the wrong word too. But there's something like we need to go back to the beginning to make a correction because it went in the wrong direction. And then when that is reconnected, there's going to be a substantial amount of flow of genuine divine love and what's the word? I'm losing the word. It's funny. Do you see what happens when like I'm watching myself too. When I'm searching for a word, I'm searching up and I reach up to higher dimensions. And as soon as I reach up to higher dimensions, it's faster and I have to move because I can't stand hold still. And it gets very nonlinear. There's a benevolent flow. The divine blueprint is reestablished as soon as the old fucker's out of the way. The corruption, the old control system. We just needed to get that out. Let's see, there's a 3-to-1 ratio. Let me look. We're still waiting for the 4. I'm not sure if that one's coming though. A lot of interference comes from very surprising sources where you wouldn't think that would be the source that it comes from. There's a tremendous amount of camouflage and misdirection. A lot of misdirection. Dark forces, they camouflage themselves a lot. They will say exactly, they know what to say to make it sound like what they're doing is okay. And they know exactly what, I've said this before, I know, they know exactly what, they can see they can see transparency too. So can we. In higher dimensions, we can look down and we can read, see through objects. We know exactly what something contains. Wherever there's light or wherever it's transparent, there's no interference. But there are dark, kind of looks a little bit like an X-ray. If you can imagine an X-ray that is largely light, you know how X-rays usually when you see them, they're mostly it's dark and light patches, areas, but it looks a little bit like that, except you can see that would be a very dark being. A normal X-ray would be a very dark being. If you saw something like that, you'd say, don't go. But usually, like if I'm looking through somebody's transparent, I can see darker areas, and that means there's less resistance there. It's softer there. So, and I know that if darkness is going to try to get to this person, they're going to I can see very, very clearly what route they're going to take, and so can they. So when I look at it, I will say, well, there's a vulnerability there, so we're going to try and dart in and prevent darkness from getting it any further or feeding off of it. Unless there are some times when you want darkness to have its own area so that you can keep these areas separate. So I might actually direct a dark stream to someplace that's already dark, because that way both parties are happy, and it's a peacekeeping mechanism in a way. But we try to, that's really only in lower dimensions where duality exists. In 5, we're not going to have that problem so much. But you can still see, avenues to take. And I wonder if they, I keep seeing this, this game, Spot It. They told me a while ago, my guides told me a while ago, that I was going to use this, specifically use this as a teaching device to explain the way templates and individual, each person creates themselves from a combination of these templates that are already in existence. You don't have to partake of just one template. Your first creation is yourself. But they told me, I'm not sure if it's today or not, maybe it is. There's a way to route energy by shifting form and circumstances around. You don't do it on the ground so much. You do it on, not unless you're very aware of what you're doing. Most people in physicality, in the third dimension, you wouldn't have any awareness, especially if you're a sleeper, you wouldn't have any awareness about this, so you wouldn't do it. But as you could do it if you're very awake and just in a body, you can certainly start to look at your world and observe the way things happen in a very different way. It's a really great way to begin to explore your world and the way spirit works, the way spirit talks to you, talks to us. And this is the way synchronicity works too. So I guess we are getting into this because it's pretty cool. Every force evolves a form, but every form and every circumstance is a multitude of, it's like DNA, except they're golden strands of light that contain specific information. So it's basically spiritual DNA, and depending on what the object is, it's going to be, it's just like a recipe. It's exactly like a recipe. For those of you who didn't catch like one of my very early live streams, I was talking about apple pie and how you make apple pie. And you would, there's a way to make it in physicality. You know, you take these ingredients that are already in existence and you layer them. You mix them physically to make this physical thing. But creation works a little bit different in higher dimensions. If you're in 5, you begin to play with the energies, layer energies, so that they merge into, they combine into energy streams. And then you can, even if you don't have a body, if you do have a body, that's fine. You can take an energy stream of your liking and you can still manipulate the energies you can create the actual substance, and then you have new things to work with. You can create a new kind of apple. You could, you know, if you could take the essential template that is an owl. Okay, I'll just go with it. An apple template, and you could say, okay, I want this apple to have some kind of properties, I want to imbue it with, I don't know, essence of owl. That's weird, but okay, that's what came through. I'm going to take it. And you could take, maybe it's something like an apple that makes you wise, or maybe we're going to take the shape, or there's some, let's say that there's some quality. You'd think that an owl and an apple wouldn't go together. But if you have an apple and there's just something about this apple you love, but there's something about the owl you love too. Let's say it's wisdom. Let's say it's, oh, wisdom. Okay. I don't know why I'm getting this example, but all right, we'll just take it. Let's say I could take, with my intention, I could, and it has to do with love too, because you have to get there on a love frequency. You have to, the way you combine these things is so magic. You would take, and we're going to be able to do it. Like, we can't do it just now, but we're right on the precipice of being able to do it. That's why it's so exciting. And I feel like we're kind of jumping the gun, me telling you this now, but it's true. So maybe this is just whetting your appetite for what's over there, because we're just at the threshold. So let's say I have an apple in this hand, and there's an owl there, and I love that owl. And there's an archetype, right? Like we've got this conscious, this idea already in existence, that there's like an apple that represents wisdom. So you're going to find a link. Find a link and love them both. Let's say that you don't think that an apple and an owl can go together. What you have to do is find a link. Take the idea in your consciousness of what you love so much about that owl. Let's say it's wisdom, which I'm imparting to you now, which is nourishment. It's nourishment for your mind. And let's say, so one of the things that I would do if I wanted to combine these things, I would look at this apple and I would just love it just the way it is. I would just immerse yourself into appreciation of this apple and really stretch out with your senses and feel exactly what it's like, and you feel the skin and you feel the texture and you just love it. You use all of your senses, and then you do the same thing. Even if I don't touch the owl, you don't even have to touch it. You can, like right now, I can see an owl there because I brought it out. You imagine an owl so strongly that after a while, you cultivate these skills so that it's there. It is there. Like, it's not a question. And it's no longer even your imagination. You say, I've got an apple in one hand and here's an owl. And then if you want to merge them, you don't have to combine the entire apple and the entire owl. That's the way you're using your own choice. In art school, they used to say, Maurice Brown used to say, steal like an artist. If you see something that you like, you don't have to take the entire thing. You can take just that quality. You can say, man, that Jell-O is so translucent. Look at the way that Jell-O, like, it's got the texture, but like, look at the way it catches light, and it's got that squish. Like, I don't want any of the things that I don't like about Jell-O. Like, I don't eat Jell-O, but like, I could get up on all day on that green, transparent, squishy part. I think that's really cool. If I could merge that quality and put it into something healthy, I say, let's try that. So back to the owl and the apple. For some reason, I'm stuck on that today. Let's say I've got an apple in this hand. It's already there. Like, right now, I can feel an apple in my hand. Can you even see it? I don't know if you can. Wait. Okay, so let's say I've got an apple in this hand. And right over there is this owl that I can see. What I would do if I wanted to combine them is that I would love this apple just the way it is. And I would love that owl just the way it is. And then what you do is you find the commonality. Find the thing that you love find the common thread. What do these things have in common? What you're looking for is a way to link them, because love and unity is the way to join anything, right? So I would start by looking at this apple that I have in my mind's eye, and I look at this owl, and the way the shape of the face is heart-shaped, and it's kind of got this dish shape, and I could see that the outline, like the contour of this apple, I can merge these things pretty easily. There's a contour of the apple, and then there's a contour of the owl's head, minus the ears. I'm just looking at the face. Like, there's a commonality there. And I can just energetically join those because there's a similarity. You're going to get what you want from commonality and love. So you love that part in both of them. And all of a sudden, as soon as you do that, you have established an energetic link that's joined by you, and it's birthed from love. And then as long as you have a connection from these two dissimilar objects, they're dissimilar if you're looking for separation. If you train your mind to look for commonality and love, you've got union with everything, man. You can just learn to navigate on unity and love, and you find a way in. You find a way for love to get in. And everything that you birth comes from that energetic quality. That's the avenue that you're going to get anywhere. That's definitely the way that you're going to get out of bondage. You're going to get out of three by finding something that you love that's I'm saying that badly. Cancel. If you're stuck in 3 and you can't get out of 3, use your imagination and harness it to something that you love. Feed it, feed it, feed it, feed it, feed it. Feed the love. Find a way to use that. It's going to be your avenue out. Imagine it as vividly as you possibly can. And then you can say, well, what do I want to take from this owl? What quality does this owl have that I think is really nice, and I want to impart it to something about this that needs a quality of that. And so already we also link them through connected consciousness. And both guinea pigs are yelling. The way to find unity. Oh, so what you're going to do, wonder why they decided to squeal right now. So another thing that the owl and the apple both have is nourishment, right? And wisdom. Wisdom. The apple has nourishment. The bird has flight. The bird has higher knowledge. Sorry, they're interrupting me. You guys are really noisy now. Stop it. It's so interesting to me that, boy, are they verbal. All of a sudden, you guys are talking up a storm. The interesting thing to me is that these two are litter mates. When I turned for my birthday, Calico gave me Sister Celery. Her friend was giving away a guinea pig. And I'll get back to the apple and the owl. Her friend was giving away a guinea pig. And so I got a guinea pig for my 50th birthday. And then, but I'm timeless. And then the other day on a live stream, she walked in the door with 5 fish and another guinea pig, and we thought that they would go together in the same cage, even though, and they're both girls too, like they're sisters from the same litter, but they fight. I did my best. I did my best to put them together, but they didn't work. So one cage sits on top of the other. The princess cage, the purple princess cage, sits on top of the lower cage, which is a little bit more spacious, and it's the lower pig. Sister Celery is the one that attacks the princess pig. Anyway, who we haven't named yet. She still needs a name. So I'm reading the symbolism of all of this stuff. It's fascinating. If you pay attention to the construct, you can see this stuff fairly clearly through the eyes of symbolism. So let's get back to combining this apple, this invisible apple, that is all about earthly wisdom. And it goes back to like the story of Adam and Eve. Don't eat the apple because it's knowledge you don't want. But it's knowledge. Or maybe you do want it, but it's forbidden, right? Something that's very strict control. But it represents, if you do eat it, you get knowledge. And so the owl has, you're looking for similarities so that you can bridge, right? The owl is also known for knowledge and for higher learning. So you can, if in your imagination, and this is actually, we're going to be able to actually make something tangible once we get into the 5th dimension, in a large, I'm going to put this apple down for a second, and that invisible owl can stay right there. Once we get into the higher dimensions, we're going to have a different kind of physicality. We're still going to have physicality. It's not that we're abandoning our bodies. This is something we're doing on this planet that has never been done before, ever. In planets ascend all the time, but they usually disappear. They go up into light, you know, in a different dimension outside of a bandwidth, so they don't have physicality. But in this, for this ascension, for a whole wide variety of reasons, one of them being wide variety, what we're attempting to do is lift physical form also, have physical form and light body at the same time. So we're going in and we're taking on a crystalline form rather than carbon. So we're going to need to bridge the qualities of the old apple, the old wisdom that fed our physical bodies. And we're going to have to merge that. We're going to find a way to bridge these things: shape, knowledge. You start to just look for things they have in common. How can I get in? You know, what's the way? That's one of the things that that I'm very good at. So for the reason that I can see what something is composed of. If you go back to the Joan of Arc lifetime, the reason that entire story was all about the distribution of resources, all of it. Freedom and the free-flowing freedom to flow. That entire lifetime was about figuring out how to get past blockages. So clearly, a lot of it, if you look at the, a lot of it has been done, and that's evident when you listen to my speech pattern compared to the speech pattern of the first one. And so now we're on the 10th, and my speech pattern is very different. Remember I said I was speaking for the group? I speak for the group, and for all of the groups, the information that comes through me, I don't just speak for myself because I'm a group and not a single person. I'm also coming down for, I know I said this to somebody. I'm not sure if I said it in a live stream or not, so I'll just repeat it. The group that I'm bringing is coming down, and there was interference. There was significant interference, huge interference, right at the level, right between the solar plexus. The lower two chakras were cut off from the flow, and right below the base chakra, basically, because it was the Joan of Arc template, right at the, like, the hymen area or perineum, it was impenetrable. That happened, like, I was normal. I had 2 children, and I was normal. Joan of Arc energy came up, and it was like I got this blue whale of massive toxicity with a barrier that was severe, really severe. And group energy, all this group energy came back and had to be digested. And another thing that happened was that there was also there was an equal and opposite whale size something that came up from the ground underneath Josh and Carmen's house, and that was white. And I knew that that was going to be an eruption. It looked like an eruption of, I thought, I was afraid of it. It looked like it was going to be like a gas explosion or something. And then when, and then it had a shape to it too. And I remember sending them texts for a while because I was really scared that like it had an explosive quality to it. And I was afraid that it was going to harm them. And then it turned into a, like, I had a vision of it one day and it turned into a speech bubble. Like someone's going to say something and there's going to be a lot of information that comes out in a very explosive way and someone's going to get harmed. And I didn't know who it was. And I just couldn't see anything. I couldn't see enough. I didn't have all the information, but at the same time I had too much information coming from above and I couldn't make any sense of it. It was just a torrential, enormous amount of information, and it was all turning and I couldn't find my body. Suddenly I was not anchored at all anymore. And all of this information was coming up from the ground, and getting these two things sorted out and back together has been just close to impossible. It's all right. 6 years later, we've kind of sorted a bit of it out. Where was I going with this? I was doing something. There is information that must be delivered to the earth. There's energy that needs to be delivered from the earth to the earth. I know that, it's a process of regaining my singular identity, which I'm not anymore. I'm a group. I shot out of my body. I reclaimed the group. They're from like the space army. And then, but then I didn't have my second chakra. And I'm also looking at the way the triangle comes together, because in the twin flame journey, you start off as a single. At the point of the triangle is a singularity. It's one being. And you balance the masculine and feminine energies within yourself. And then on the twin journey, you learn how, the first step in when you go up, you learn how to create that with one other person. So that would be your divine partner at that sacral level. So those are the two parts that were chopped off completely. I didn't have the twin union, and I didn't have the singularity. Lost it completely. Lost my identity and can't reach. And that's because I had to come back with this stuff organized. I've just had a tremendously difficult time doing it. It also wasn't time. It had to be time also. There was a lot of divine right timing, because certain things can't come together. It's deadly if they come together before it's time. It's like you can't just decide. Also, explosive comes to mind. So there's an extremely fiery, like, passionate doesn't really begin to cut it. This is like passionate, yes, but this is if these energies come together prematurely and in the wrong sequence, you have the potential nothing. You have the certainty of spontaneous combustion on a really, really huge scale. There are certain things that you can't bring them too close together. You have to have an energetic barrier, like gasoline, gasoline fumes and a match. Don't do it. And there are certain things, there are many things that are invisible to people when they're in, sorry, I'm getting information. When they're in density, you literally can't see. You're so dense that you don't see. Light can't get in. Light and information can't get in. It just bounces off. You don't get it. It takes a certain amount of flow. And that's one of the reasons I think that like we had certain members of our construct who had to take on extreme amounts of density, and then it made them incredibly stupid. And I know that that's like, it's not politically correct to say someone is stupid, but it creates certain very predictable known quantities. It produces, it will make you slow, incredibly slow, and it will, because it's just thick and it moves, dense things move very slowly, and the energy doesn't flow. It's very, very, very slow. And light can't get in. So getting this thing to, that's what the way the planet was. The entire planet was this way. That's why the humans weren't developing. And we had to come down and figure out some way to reach them. Wow. Okay, so here's one thing that I was going to say. I know that we're going to be talking about this at some point. I'm going to talk somehow in the future. I feel like this isn't the only time I'm going to be talking about it. I feel like I'm going to be traveling. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to be doing, but there's something they're saying they don't want me to know just now. They're going to give it to me when it's appropriate. They're going to give me something that something is coming in that's I don't know what it is. It's an opportunity for me to deliver the information or somehow work with what I know. Anyway, the financial situation I know is going to be improving. There has been a tremendous amount of interference there by dark forces who just didn't want me to do certain things, or didn't want us to get something up and running that was actually divinely orchestrated. For benevolence. And so there are certain things that are not over yet, but I'm being reassigned to something rerouted. I'm being rerouted so that I can deliver information on a broader scale with somebody else, and I'm not sure who. I don't know what that's going to be. And I already know that they're not telling me that for a reason. They don't want me to know because they think I'm going to get scared, because I don't like fame. And I don't. And I just really just want a home and a garden, and that's what I wanted. But they told me that I have to do this and it's important. So I said, okay, because what do? Yeah, of course you're going to say okay. Angel comes down. So it's so interesting though, because angels come down and it's down nothing. That's kind of like assuming that they're not here with us. They're here with us, of course they are. But sometimes when the energy comes in, I always think it's so sad, a little heartbreaking when I see, you know, like a Hallmark. Of course, what are they going to do? I'm not really criticizing, but like a Hallmark version of an angel is like this little, it's, you know, they have like a mouth from a toothpick, like they're singing, and it's this man, that ain't nothing. Like, angels can take a lot of forms, but when you have experienced this and have been bathed in this energy, there's a reason that, you know, one of the first things the angels always say is be not afraid. Because the energy, when you first experience it from a place that was placid and was peaceful, it doesn't feel more peaceful. Usually when you meet this colossal energy, just the sheer quantity is so big and so powerful that it is often mistaken for anger. Because usually, you know, in our normal lives when we're interacting with people, you wouldn't get a really big booming voice or anything unless somebody was cross, somebody was really angry. But sometimes, and I'm not saying that angels yell or anything, I'm just saying they don't, but sometimes the energy, when it comes in, it is so much bigger It is so much more huge and potent, and all it just you feel it in your cells, and it resonates like it shakes you on such a level. It is so resonant, and it's like you're going from being a single individual, and you suddenly you really are going from the experience of being a drop to the experience of being the ocean, and it can be quite stunning and terrifying if you're not prepared, particularly if you're, you know, like one of these people who thinks that there is no God. And then you're gonna have a different experience altogether. I remember the first time I ever tried channeling, and I expected crying. I was, you know, crying. I had all kinds of plans for opening a channel, and I had my little tape recorder, and I was just going to sit there. I was pregnant with Calico, and I thought that I was going to, you know, I thought it was going to be like meditation, or I thought I was going to bring in something like Cryon. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Cryon of the Magnetic Service. I love Cryon. I was going to, my aura was going to be fluffed, and it was going to be sparkly and lavender cotton candy and sparkles. And that wasn't what I got at all. God, it was so thunderous that I did it. And there was a chaperone too, because the energy came in. It was so massive. And I was not prepared. And I also thought I had anticipated, I think I've told you the story before on one of my live streams, but I had anticipated opening the channel to be something like, that I would need to work my way into. That's why they have these books like How to Open a Channel, and they have these training programs, How to Open a Channel. And apparently I didn't need all that much training, because I sat down to do it once, and it was like, boom! And that was that. Like, it came in, and also it was so direct. Like, there was no tact about it. There was no tact. And the reason I actually stopped doing it twice, I did it twice, and the messages that came through, I had such plans. I had such ignorant plans. Like, I know what let's do. And I had written all these plans, all these questions. Like, I'm going to try channeling. You want me to ask some questions? You know? And my friends had asked some questions, and I had written them down. Then I sat down with my tape recorder, and I got some answers. But then the answers that came in from my friends, I could tell that I could never repeat these. Now I could do it, but at the time, it was like 14 years ago. It wasn't tactful. It was true. It was true, and it was good advice too. But it wasn't tactful. And at the time, I was like, I'm not going to tell her this. Do we all know this? Yeah, it's true. This person needs to stop that shit. Do this other thing. We all know that's true. But it wasn't tactful. So I was like, well, I'm going to keep my channeling to myself for a while. Never mind. I didn't want to lose everybody. And now it doesn't matter so much, because now my messages come in. It's a little more natural. It's like more of my personality. It's not a different being, although that can sometimes happen. Sometimes, okay, so here's something I want to talk about. As long as we're talking about expanded awareness and flow, I feel like I dropped a topic or several. I'm just going to keep going, though. Whatever happens, happens. I was going to talk about oh, also, you know, I haven't rung my bell at all this time. Did you notice that? Because now we're working on establishing flow, and it's less about clearing blocks, and it's more about just flowing and in like a normal, easy conversation. I was told before I got on this live stream, they told me to do the live stream, but then they didn't tell me what it was about. And but I did know that we were just going to look at where the breaks in the connection were. So obviously, I mean, it's much better, isn't it? It's better than it was originally. The first First live streams I did were quite disjointed, and it has gotten better, and I think it's going to go down still, you know, into a more structured format. So what was I saying? Oh, I was going to talk about getting information. What's the word for that? Picking up energy from objects. What was I going to say about it? Passing in, oh, okay, passing influences from objects. Oh, then I was going to go back to spot it. That's why. All right. I have always envied people who have the same kind of expanded awareness or expanded empathic abilities, who are able to turn it on and off. That's something that I cannot do. I think I would like to do it. I envy the people who can do it, but I don't know how to turn off my eyesight, and I don't know how to turn off my sense of smell. I can leave my body and leave all my physical senses if I want to do that. That would be an easier way for me to go about it. But I don't know how to turn off my expanded psychic awareness. I think whatever. I think I'll just say that I'm not supposed to, since I don't know how to do it. I'll just call it a skill. But I do know, like, when I was working with Kate Loy, she's got mad skills, really, really, really high dimensional mad skills. But every time she would go, she's a nice grounded Capricorn, works in very high dimensions. And every time I would go to work with her, and she would, one time she said she was going to open her channel, but then she shuts it when she goes to the cafe. Like she was going to run out and get some lunch. And then I said, I don't know how to do that. How the hell do you do that? Because like I'll walk through a cafe and I pick up the same way you can walk through like a diner or something, and you can smell what people are, you can pick up snippets of conversation, and you can smell what, you know, whatever people are eating as you pass, and you can see everybody. I do that. I don't know how to turn off my mind. I'm just picking up snippets of conversation, or snippets of what, not conversation so much, auditory, although that too. But like people, when people are relaxed, especially in the third dimension, their minds are just going, and since they think they have privacy, they don't try to keep their thoughts secret. Their thoughts are just going everywhere. And like I remember walking through a diner one time, and I knew somebody was just as I was walking down, not that long, and I wasn't stopping to focus on anybody. I'm just picking up random things as I walk through a diner. Like somebody's worried about this person has cancer. Somebody has, I can't remember what it was, but I remember knowing that this person is thinking about his car, like he's going to load the car, and just picking, not trying to, I don't know how to turn it off, but randomly things just float in the air. And when you start to think about things, or when you have things that you think about often, they start to coalesce into, you bring them into your field. They start to form like vague solidities, and not really solid, but it like the energy begins to group into something. Like, you know how you attract what you think about. You attract what you think about because in your mental space, in higher dimensions, your repeat thoughts cause things to form energetically, and then as they form, as you think about them more and more, they group together, they become more and more solid, and eventually they hit the third dimension, and they will, like something will happen in the third dimension because you made it, and then it finds its way to you one way or another. So if you're worried about, you know, I have to make sure I get checked for breast cancer all the time because there's breast cancer that runs in my family, breast cancer that runs in my family. I have to really, you know, make sure you get your mammogram because there's breast cancer. I just really want to make sure. I'm always worried about breast cancer, always worried about cancer, always worried about cancer. Cancel. That, you're bringing that to you more than your genetics, more than your genetics are. Your genetics might have something to do with it, but you have 12 strands of spiritual DNA and only 2 strands of that are physical. Your thoughts are potent. Just be aware of what you think on a regular basis, and don't feed that. You know, do the opposite. There are ways to counteract all kinds of energetic things. So where was I going? Oh, so getting influences from objects. A lot of us also will pick up, and I don't even know exactly what I'm going to say about this, but I don't have a solution or anything, except for my bell. Like I ring this bell all the time because I'm very sensitive to picking up stories or the histories of objects, like certain materials will hold patterns. They will hold stories. That's why, like, you really can get a piece of furniture that's haunted. Wood, old wood. Wood holds any wood. Wood holds memory. Water holds memory. You know that. Stone holds memory. You know why so many buildings are haunted, like old castles? If you think about the kind of, and there are different kinds of spirits. There's so many different kinds of spirits. But did you ever notice, like, those stories about, like, like haunted castle stories or haunted house stories? If you think about like some stereotypical haunting story which takes place in a castle, and every time it's this particular time of night, you know, you see the lady at the top of the stairs and she's wringing her hands and she's all upset, and she walks this particular loop and everybody sees her at this particular location, and then she makes the same route, or something like that. It's a repeat event, and it'll have some kind of repetition according to a date or a moon or something like that. But you know, so many of these buildings that are built with stone have a high concentration of quartz. And you can program something with strength and emotion. Emotion has a very strong imprinting quality. So if you have a building and it's like a monastery, or it's a, you know, it's a church, or it's a castle where there was some traumatic event, one of the things that can happen, there are a lot of different reasons that could explain something like that. And I don't know why we're talking about this particular thing. It just prompted in my head. But in some kind of a circumstance where there's a stone building that has a haunting, that particularly if it's a haunting that is one of those repeat kind of hauntings, like there's a specific location where something always appears and it takes a particular route. It's just like a tape. It's just like it's like a videotape or an audio tape where there's an imprint there, because quartz will hold, it will hold memory. It has memory, and you can have something that triggers that to start going. Also, outside of time, you know, the third dimension is where we have physicality and carbon life forms, and we're on the timeline. But in the fourth dimension, we're right outside the timeline. So it's kind of like, I mean, you're not attached to time in the same way. You begin to get, you get the beginnings of solidity, and you get the beginnings of the timeline. It's like between 5 and 3, obviously. But before it sinks down all the way into a form, it's nebulous. It like you can still move. And that's why the 4th dimension is where like the archons, the arcane, we do a lot of our functioning, are manipulating, are pulling, like the separating, like who gets what. And that's where, you know, when you leave your body, before you go, before you're completely free, a lot of the spirit realms, when people first die, they lurk around in 4. The 4 is a real dicey realm. A lot of manipulation has happened in 4. Anyway, we're going to be glad to get out of it. 4 is not really one of my, I don't like 3 either. I don't like 3 or 4. But 4 is like where 4 is a strata of information where this is where when you, usually if you're a novice and you use something like a Ouija board, you're likely to reach up and get a spirit from 4. You're not likely, unless you know what you're doing, which is why I always tell people don't use a Ouija board. If you are someone who doesn't know what they're doing and they're going to a Ouija board and going, this is already kind of creepy and I'm a little scared, and you start to bring in a spirit, are you going to get one? Absolutely. There's no guarantee whatsoever it's going to be benevolent. It's going to be someone who's attracted to your like frequency of you know, fear, who probably wants to do some manipulation. Is it possible to use, I'm not saying it's impossible to use a Ouija board effectively and actually get a clear answer, but you have to go in and know what you're doing. And my own personal choice is stay away from it, because also it's in the collective consciousness. It's low. It's like voodoo. Although there's a way to utilize everything appropriately. There's a way to navigate it cleanly, purely, and for the light. But you yourself have to be your own clean vessel that is that, because you're going to get a matching frequency, that being the entire point. So if you're looking to an external source, you have already given your power away to an external source. But I do, this is a weird topic of conversation. I don't know why I'm really talking about this, but I do make a distinction, though, between a tool such as a Ouija board and something like oracle cards or tarot, which are made out of a totally different energy stream. And you have a lot, it's a lot lighter and clearer. The Ouija board has there are elements in the energy stream that the Ouija board is made of. There are just elements in that are darker and more, let me say that it's just more it's more susceptible to interference. That's the way I want to put it. It's more susceptible to interference. Yeah, that's what I'm going to say about that. So this is turning out to be longer than I thought. When we come down, pre-incarnation, we decide what our first creation is ourselves. In any given lifetime, prior to incarnation, we have a team of advisors and ourselves, and we look at what we hope to accomplish in a given lifetime, and we decide what qualities we're going to need. And we make sure that we get them. We kind of establish a loose, depending on what you go down to accomplish. Like my lifetime in this lifetime is incredibly specific. Incredibly specific. I only came down to do the one thing. And there's very little choice for me this time that's choosable once I got down here. There's still free choice, but all of my free choice, most of my free choice occurred pre-incarnation. And then I came down with a very specific task that is going to take my undivided attention, and I'm going to be doing it from the time I'm born to the time I die, and that's what I came to do. Not all incarnations are like that. Some people come down and they are here to explore and have fun or whatever. But a lot of light workers in particular came down for this particular period of time in ascension. A lot of us came in with tasks, and once we wake up, it's like, man, we're on board. Bring it on. We came to do this thing. And I was on task, but I didn't know that I was on task. I woke up and I was awake. I was born awake, but I woke up to my past. I got all my past life memories back in 2013. And then it was like, wow, I have to finish this now. I forgot. My guide said, yes, you do. At any rate, I'm going to be teaching. I know a little bit about my next assignment. It has something to do with teaching about creation. I am going to be talking about the information about the Joan of Arc lifetime. They have told me already that I will be teaching from that. There's more information about that that's going to come out, but it has to be done from in such a way that I'm using it to teach from, to make sure that, as a tool, to make sure that, you know, I can point to specific errors to say, oh, I see what happened, what grave error happened there. We're going to make sure that doesn't happen again. We're never going to go this far out of balance, because we don't want to recreate another prison planet scenario by accident. Because we didn't, you know, it was already quite dense when we came down, and then it just got very difficult. So we're just going to take certain precautions to make sure it stays, make sure we go in a better direction. So when we come, before we incarnate, we meet with a team of advisors, and we decide what we're going to accomplish. Usually there are, I don't know, maybe there are several select choices. Mostly, like they will give you usually a couple of your best options for, in terms of, you know, because your soul has a curriculum. Your soul, a soul's progress, there is a spiritual curriculum. There are things that you are here to learn or experience. And for your optimal development, they will usually give you 3 or 4 choices, and you will, you know, basically see who you could be born to. You will pick your parents. You will pick certain scenarios that you need for your soul's development, not always for your enjoyment, but for your soul's best advantage in terms of learning. So, you know, obviously, I'm not going to talk too much about this, because if you're listening to this, you probably already know a great deal about it already. But something, you know, do I want to get into this right now? There are certain scenarios where a soul would say, a soul, not a personality, but a soul might say, it's going to serve my own growth if I know what it is to be abused, since I've done that a couple of times in the past. I want to know what it's like to experience a certain amount of pain, since I have, you know, or be taken advantage of, and that way I will know it will teach me compassion or something like that. There are also certain souls who come down in a great deal of service, knowing that the pain of the planet has been, the planet has accumulated so much pain that they go down to assist and will pick up because they're very, 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 very strong. They will agree to go through certain experiences in order to clear a bloodline so that the patterns don't perpetuate. And there are many light workers on the planet now who have done exactly that. And of course you would think, well, why would anybody choose to do that? But that's why. I'm not saying in every case, but in many cases, particularly with light workers who came to help this planet with ascension, this planet wasn't, we weren't going to get very many out because it was so incredibly dense. And there was a universal call for volunteers willing to help. And I used this example in one of my earlier live streams. If you, if you are clean and pure and very strong ascended master type, or you're in the God squad, or you're an angel and you're very strong, and let's say there's a location where it's like, it's a disgusting analogy, but it's true, like dense raw sewage, or some kind of horrendous location where you fall in and it's impossible to get out of unless you are, and let's say to your horror one day, for some reason your baby falls in. Before you can prevent it, to your horror, your baby falls in and they sink down to the bottom. And let's say they're not dead, but they're just going to live down there, and everybody down there is in anguish. Do you want to go down there? No, of course not. But honestly, if there was a in-ground swimming pool full of raw sewage, and if my baby fell in the raw sewage, what's the first thing that I'm going to do if I'm a mother? I'm going to dive in. Of course I'm going to dive in and pick up my baby. I'm going to swim y'all out. Am I going to enjoy it? No. Am I going to do it anyway? Of course. And the universe is full of loving parents who see these. And it's not just ours. It's not just our own baby. These are beings. When you love something, you love all of creation so much. Of course you're going to do anything. Of course you're going to do everything. There was a universal call for assistance because Earth needs help. And of course we all went. So that explains a lot of the anguish. Is it fun? Fuck no. It's horrendous. It's been a it's been a project. So I keep threatening to use this game, and then I don't do it. So the way, hang on a second, because I'm going to use it to explain synchronicities too. So every person, when they come down, they decide what qualities they're going to need. And let's say, and let's simplify it in the extreme and say each being, because when we come down to carbon-based life forms, there's only so much space. It's like carry-on baggage. In the fifth dimension, we're going to have, not only are we way more expanded, and there's a lot of, we're much more like pumice and not solid. There's a lot more maneuverability, and a lot more light is going to circulate into our physical forms. So we're going to be a tremendous amount healthier. We're going to be a lot smarter and more empathic, etc. But when we're down in physical form, there's limited space. It's just like carry-on baggage. You know, you get this amount, everything you carry has to fit under your seat. You can only fit, you've got 2 strands of biological DNA, and that's it. So you have to, and a lot of that has been fucked with too. So you choose very carefully these, let's say, for the sake of example, it's 100 light strands. And you choose the qualities that you're going to need, the bare essentials usually, for whatever you're going to need to go in, to go through your life in this particular life. Each one of those things is full of frequencies. You're a collection, a particular recipe of frequencies. So the way synchronicity works, and I think I didn't finish telling you about picking up stuff from objects. I'm just going to finish this first. The way synchronicity works, and you can start to experience your own world this way, because every force evolves a form or a circumstance. Every energy stream evolves into form and circumstance. It's moving energy, all of it. And we are the body of God. We are the mind and the body of God. Everything is moving and morphing and shifting. And dogs pass, and you drink a cup of coffee, and somebody walks by you with a tray of food and you're sitting in a chair that has particular qualities, and somebody comes in the door and there's a bird that flies by and there are cars that are passing and things just move. But it's all pertinent. If you can learn to observe it and just think about the way energy moves, think about a good way to start is to look at any given thing and just from it, without attaching any real meaning to it, you just look at it neutrally and say, what energy would this thing have to contain? And just practice, like if you just ask yourself that question, what energy would this thing have to contain to look the way it does? Or for this circumstance to happen, what would the energy have to be? If you could just it's enough to open your mind to that line of inquiry. And if you just open your mind to that question, you can call in an answer by virtue of the fact that your mind is simply open. And you just ask a question and you can sit and you can say, show me something that I need to know about this circumstance. So say, for example, so go back to the Joan story, because I don't know why they always told me to use this particular Joan of Arc story to talk about, which is all about resource distribution. That entire story, no matter what you're talking about, the financial system, governments, politics, human development, religion, definitely the financial system too. It's all about spirit trying to get to earth, trying to get everything to move, trying to shift populations, trying to shift objects, trying to shift populations, a big one. And interdimensional harmony is all about finding avenues that energy can travel with the least amount of resistance, because energy travels by way of the least amount of resistance. It always takes the path of least resistance. So you're going to have to, so if I need to get a frequency, any given frequency, because it's not good or bad, it's just appropriate placement. I've said that before, like tadpoles and ice cream are both good things, but they don't go together. The ice cream would say that tadpole is terrible. The tadpole would say that environment is horrible, it's freezing, I hate it, it's bad. But neither one of them are bad, they're just different things. They just need to go in different areas. So you can love everything. The problem is one of separation. And if you can reframe it, you can find unity and love. Loving your enemy is all about this. Find some quality. You don't have to approve of anything. You also, interestingly enough, you don't have to like anything. Like and love are totally different in my view. I find it one of the easiest things to do is to love everything. But for me, I can bounce out of my body. I can go very high up in dimension. And as soon as I'm in a high dimension, I immediately am in love with absolutely everything. I'm in love all the time. I just love everything all the time. And then I come down in dimension and immediately it's like you go into separation when you're in 4 and 3. And then there's all kinds of crap I don't like. I don't like you and you and you and you, and I hate that thing. And it's like, sometimes it's just a product of where you are. So if you can just manage to find your way into 5, you'll be in love with everyone all the time. But you don't have to, you can still have appropriate differentiation. There's a certain amount of allowing. You just allow somebody to be different and you don't have to insist that they agree with you. In fact, harmony takes different notes. You can't have harmony unless you have differentiation. So you're going to have that. That's part of the joy of it. All creation is about all sorts of different things. But that doesn't mean the gasoline and matches go together. They don't. They can still each exist, though. So synchronicity, the way synchronicity works, it's a combination of a given individual needing a certain frequency. Let's say you are a piece of pumice. I like that example because you're like porous, and so there's something you need. Let's say you don't have to be a piece of pumice. Let's say you are something in need of something. Let's say you're I don't want to use that example. I want to use a different example. Let's say you're, what's another example? Because they're telling me to use an example. I don't know why. I do know why. Okay, it's because they know I don't want to talk about it. That's why. All right. So let's say you are, oh, God, I hate this example. Damn it. I just stalled. This is where the break is, buddies. If we were looking for where the break is, this is the break. God damn it. I am, I've got, there it is. Shit. All right, we found it. It was so well there. It was so good there for a while. It's okay. It's getting better. All right. They're making adjustments. There is a particular portion of the Joan of Arc lifetime that is so traumatic for me, and it's not the fire. It's prior to that. Whew. And every time they're trying to get me to talk about synchronicity and flow. There's something in there about rescue, and there's a stall of resentment, anger, and something because something couldn't get to something. Because okay, wait, here it is. I have it. Help me say it. Help me say it, because now my throat's clogged. Hang on. It's where rescue was unable to get to me. I was unable to get to my people. I was unable to get to my people. That's not it. There's a thing, I can feel it. There's a, hang on. Okay, if you're gonna, wait, let me get my thing. Where's my belt? Here we go. That goddamn tower. I was actually locked in a tower. And this has to do with money and rescue. I can feel it right there. It has to, how do you get the money to, there's money. There's somebody who's trapped. It was me. But it's also now it has turned into my population. I have a population of trapped people. I was one person that was trapped, but it was I was one person trapped in a cell in a tower high up. But my people were trapped in a city, in Paris. And these are connected. The army was unable, I didn't think we were going to talk about this at all. The army was unable, as hard as we tried, the army was unable to reach the people, even though we were there. Okay, that's where the bridge, okay, I see the break, I see the break. They see the break too. That's what this whole conversation was for. Whew. Clear. It's all about forgiveness. Holy crap. and rage at being trapped in a tower. Afterward, Paris was first. They captured me afterward. I was also shot at Paris. And in this lifetime, I was born with a deep divot in my left thigh, right where Joan of Arc was shot. I was shot with a crossbow at the Battle of Paris. And in that lifetime, I don't remember how many thousands of people were stuck in that city. And we had one army, and we were this close. And we were sabotaged. We were unable to gain access to the city. All they needed was an avenue. We needed an avenue in, they needed an avenue out. Has to do with forgiveness. En masse, and also me as an individual. All my children were kept from me. And I couldn't reach them. And you know, patterns repeat until they're changed. I also know that people tried to, I now know that people did actually make attempts to rescue me, and they weren't able to rescue me. You can't always save someone from a fire. I thought nobody tried. For a really long time, I had a very difficult time with that memory because I thought nobody even tried. There were certain people who made an attempt. The person who really needed to do it didn't do it. And that was sheer malice. And that was the king that I had given the throne to. And that led directly led to the imbalance in the system that we have today. We went down to attempt, if you go back to that story, there was an attempt to restore flow. There was an attempt to restore equality. And what it turned into instead was a blossoming, a magnification of a huge, tremendous distortion of a tremendous locking in of inequality. The inequality actually magnified. And then you had things like the grave injustices, grave inequalities that led to the French Revolution, that led, same pattern, the American Revolution, the way the American Indians have been treated. Injustices that are we're still trying to recover. You know, when there was a point when Joan of Arc had found a certain degree of favor in the court before the mass betrayal, because after she had served her purpose, she was considered disposable for being too outspoken and obnoxious. And also I yelled a lot, that's true. But I yelled a lot because there were things that were horrendously wrong, and I wasn't given anything that I was promised and also owed. But one of the things that I had asked for was that we no longer suffered under taxation. For my town and the town over, 2 towns. Because it's all about establishing a pattern where things are shared. And there's more than, you think about more than just you and yours. We needed to plant a seed at that time, and it was a partial success. But we're still working on the 11 gateway. And there are still forces in place that haven't wanted us to make it, that have wanted to destroy the Twin Towers on just right at the time where we were going to get our financial restoration. That's when the Twin Towers came down, 9/11. There's the whole Joan of Arc story is all about resource distribution and how you get one thing, how you get something that needs to get something, how you get something from one place to another unencumbered. And that entire story is all about overcoming obstacles. And Paris is just still has been the main issue for me. That's why I was born with a scar. I mean, every force evolves a form. You come back down into a body, and if you are still carrying trauma from something, you show up with something like a birthmark or a birth defect or some sort of, you're going to be born with something usually that is indicative of that issue. So for example, I know somebody involved, I won't mention their name, but I know somebody who was involved in that lifetime, who diverted the needed resources that were supposed, money specifically, money that was supposed to go to the army, to the French army. This person diverted, took funds, stole them, and put them elsewhere. And that person in this lifetime was born with, I think it's Burchette's disease. And the blood vessels can rupture and blood gets diverted spontaneously. It's supposed to be going along this one channel, but it ruptures and it spurts out. And there's also problems with eyesight and all sorts of other things. Every force evolves a form or a circumstance. So it's not like you have these things, they don't mean anything. Everything means something. People who tend to carry a lot of congestion, it's retained water. Water is emotion. So you're containing sorrow, it's repressed emotion. People who have congestive heart failure, it's a lot of congested sorrow. They're holding on to a lot of heartbreak. People who have, diabetes can't deal with sugar. They have a hard time receiving sweetness. They have a hard time receiving love, a lot of them. On some level, they have a very hard time receiving. Inflammation comes from anger. Everything means something. And everything is an assortment of frequencies. So this is the way synchronicity works. I keep threatening to get back to this. The way synchronicity works, the way your spirit guides and higher level guides will send things down very often. And I know this because when I was on the Council of Balance, which was at 12, but we assembled our team in 6, and we did most of our active work through 4, because you have to kind of manipulate things and pull things. Things coalesce in 4, and then they land in 3. But we do a lot of our work in 4. And what you're going to try to do, if you want something, a frequency or a collection of frequencies to get somewhere. Let's say someone, I'm still struggling with this example. What example do I want to use? Let's just say, very simple example, let's say somebody is missing a specific frequency. I don't know why this is the example that's popping into my head, but it keeps happening, so I'm just going to go with it. Let's say you are somebody who needs the frequency for some reason. You need a frequency that's long and thin. There's a quality, like everything has a quality, right? It's an assortment of qualities. This bell is an assortment of qualities. There are qualities about it that represent thickness, this degree of thickness. There are frequencies about it that are inherent, like the metal is a recipe of certain frequencies that makes the metal. And then the shape is another layer of frequencies that will make this shape specifically. And then you've got the black is a specific frequency. And then you've got these shapes that are all in a dowel that's carved. You can look at the shape of something and it's all its own combination of frequencies. So let's say I have somebody and for some reason they need something, they are missing a frequency that would aid them to some degree. For some reason, they are missing a frequency that is long and thin. If I am their spirit guide, and this is such a basic example because it's really much more complicated than this, but just for the first time I'm going to talk about this. Let's say if I'm their spirit guide, I'm going to make sure they get the frequency that they need by having a waiter who's carrying a plate of spaghetti walk by them. And maybe a cat will pass and they need the frequency of cat's whiskers. Something long and thin. I don't know, for some reason there's something about this, why are you telling me something long and thin? String. Why are you, they're showing me the cat's whiskers again. Why? Oh, okay, it has to do with sensing. Kitty, so they're, okay, so they call me Kitty a lot. That's actually my nickname in my Salmon ad, they call me Kitty. Baby cat, because I'm like the baby lion, and they call me Kitty. So why are they telling me this? This has meaning for me and it has meaning for you too. They're showing me white cat's whiskers. So are you saying that I need this frequency? So so what? And particularly they're saying the cat's whiskers are white. So purity. So purity, something long and thin, stretching. So I'm trying to figure this out. I'm just doing it while you can hear me. I don't really understand though. The way synchronicity works is that you will send something, okay, thank you. You will send, if I'm a spirit guide, I will send things into the environment of a person or a group of people that they need to experience so that they're, thank you, so that their whiskers, so that there's, okay, so that they're scented, they will reach out with their senses and they will pick up the frequencies that they need and they will bring it, they will gradually learn, okay, this is why. They're doing on this right now like 4 different levels or so, somewhere in there. And they're saying when I walk through a diner, they're showing me bread alone in Woodstock. I don't know why. When I walk through bread alone in Woodstock, okay, thank you. I have my feelers out that function like antenna, like whiskers that pick up vibrations, and they're showing me that they're showing me white cat's whiskers. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You just answered that entire thing. This is why symbolic interpretation, it's like, it seems nebulous when you try to convey it into a linear form, but once you get used to picking it up, you can pick up a wide array of information all at once. And it's actually far more efficient. So what they're saying to me right now, if I can slow down and make this more linear now, they just showed me a picture of me walking through a cafe. And remember, I was complaining just a minute ago that I'm unable to turn it off. And they're saying this is important because my job is to take it in, but my job is also to stretch out with my energetic feelers. They're showing me something long and thin because usually people in the realm that the third dimensional realm are not very open to receive a lot of it. So that's why it's white. So it's from the light side, and I'm trying to get as much of my expanded awareness. This is why I don't turn it off, they say. My goal is to radiate this frequency very, very much, but do it in a way that it's long and very thin and very light, so that it could possibly get into as many people as possible. So there's always a two-way. Okay, thank you. There's always a two-way. It's always running in two directions. So the reason they're saying I don't turn mine off. Some people do turn theirs off, but I don't turn mine off. Mine is always running, always giving, always radiating out. And when I walk through Bread Alone in Woodstock, they're using that example, I pass by the people and I can I can pick up snippets of what's going on in their mind, but when I'm taking it in, they're getting some of my intuitive expanded awareness, and these frequencies are getting, and these abilities are opening their and yours. Expanding their awareness. And every time that I reach, so you see now my speech pattern has changed now, and I'm moving again. And it's because this particular, every time energy comes in from this particular strata, it carries with it certain qualities, which I don't control it, it's just coming out of my mouth. And it's moving and changing, and I'm really not, I'm not filtering. You may have noticed. I don't filter all that much. And I speak for groups of people. And right now I'm speaking for the group that's like way up there. Oddly, when I'm talking to a single person, my speech pattern it's not really, it changes. Okay. So, spot it. So this is a game. We're not going to play the game, we're just using cards. So this is a game called Spot It. This particular version is Spot It for On the Road. So in this game, this is a fantastic game. And in this game, each one of these cards has on it, whoop, can you see it? This way, it's reversed. Each one of these cards has an assortment of symbols, assortment of pictures, and they're all different sizes, and there is a similarity on each one of them. And the trick is to find which one is the same. Find an avenue. So it works a little bit like round dominoes. So what you're going to try and do on this one, it's so funny, I can't see. It's this one, and this one. The picture is the same, but the percentage is different, like they're different sizes. And I'm not even sure what the hell that thing is. What is that thing? It might be a bridge or a tunnel, or I guess it looks like a tunnel. All right, it's a tunnel, which is funny because we're just talking about avenues. And these are the first two cards I picked up, and they have avenues in common, tunnels. So the tunnel image is on both, but one is bigger and one is smaller. And that's the way that synchronicity really works, because if I'm trying to get a certain amount of, we could even say money, or but it could be anything, a certain number of people, a certain frequency that needs to go to a person, a certain amount of money that needs to get somewhere. You can do it in, you don't have to do it all at once. You can do it a little bit at a time by percentages, like very much like the apple and the owl. You don't have to take the whole thing. You can take just the parts that are like. You find where the similarity is, and join that. And then, so if they have, you might be able to get 15% of, let's say 100% of a frequency needs to get to a particular location. You could send like long and thin. Let's say something needs the quality of long and thin. I could send that quality in on any number of different objects that carry it in any number of quantities. I might send a waiter past with a plate of spaghetti. I might have a cat walk by because they have long and thin whiskers. I might have, I don't know, something else that's long and thin. But it works like that. So every single item in your environment is a collection of frequencies. And if I call something in, if I need something, like if I'm going to try and manifest something, this is one of the reasons why in quantum, in manifesting, when you manifest something, you can't be so specific about the exact person you want to bring it to you, or the exact form that it has to take, even though you're holding it in your mind exactly what you want. But you can't be so dead set that it has to be this exact one. You could actually have something else that's going to bring you the exact frequencies, the exact thing that you actually want, the essence of what you want, but it's all of those exact frequencies are going to come in via an assortment of people, or an assortment of objects, or an assortment of anything. Quantum manifesting works like this. It's different from the way that you make something in 3D, where you decide exactly what you want and you set your eyes on it and you go step by step by step, and you build with Legos until you get there. That was one way of working in the third dimension, but it was very pedestrian, and it's always going to keep you locked into one thing. And then you're stuck there too, because there's not a lot of movement. You can still have everything that you want, but you need to allow for enough flexibility that the universe can provide it to you, because I guarantee you, the universe and your spirit guides are trying to get you everything you want. But you need to be open to and be able to see where it is, where it's trying to get to you. What you want wants you. But you have to allow that it could be coming in from an alternate source that's maybe not the one you pictured, that maybe is something for, because also in quantum, in the quantum realm, as opposed to the binary realm, the quantum realm, everything is moving all the time. So it seems very unreliable, but it's actually quite reliable. It's more reliable, and it's a hell of a lot faster and easier. Once you get the hang of it, that's where all the magic is. You don't have to figure it out. In fact, if you're stuck trying to figure it out, and you're stuck in your head because you just can't figure out how you're going to do it, what you have to do, that's why, like Abraham Hicks will say, relax into flow, because flow will naturally raise your vibration and take you up higher. It doesn't mean you do nothing. Sometimes, I mean, it's possible that you could do nothing. You actually need to take half action and half, it's a marriage between spirit and you. Spirit does have, you know, it's like that whole thing. Take one step toward the gods, they take 10 toward you. That when we're in the fifth dimension, that ratio changes a bit. In the third dimension, God did more of the work because we have set it up that way because people were in density. There was a great deal of help available. There was a 10-to-1 ratio or something like that. You know, you've got the third dimension is in the tip of the triangle, and God is God. You know, spirit is very generous in pouring down. And that's why when angels come in, the energy describes, you know, the shepherd will say, God, get that thing away from me because it seems so powerful. It's so overwhelming. And the angel will say, be not afraid. I'm just here to give you what you wanted. But now what's happening is we're raising up in vibration. We're going up a strata, 2 actually. We're going into 4th density in the 5th dimension. 4th density means our physical forms are not as dense as they were. So more light, more frequency, more health, more flow is able to get to us. And what that means is that we have to allow other influences to come near us so that we can get the frequencies that we need. There is actually a way to create a healing environment so you're not going to have to go to the doctor anymore. When we're all up and running and we have a location, it's entirely possible to establish a smorgasbord of frequencies where you, as a porous, crystalline-bodied being, can walk there, can live there, and simply receive everything that you need. Simply receive everything that you need. Because you allowed it in. But in order to do that, you need to have energy circulating, otherwise it can't get to you. You need to allow for movement. If you're too buttoned down on what you think it has to look like and too solid, it can't flow through you, and therefore you're not gonna get it. So these things are fascinating because if I want to get somewhere, I could pass a certain amount of, if they're a little bit like dominoes. Like here, we have a connection here with the tent and the tent, and I don't know what's the connection on this one. Oh, it's this. What is that? It's like a rowboat. Is that a rowboat? What the hell is it? I think it's a boat. It's basically like dominoes, and you just learn to it's in fact, this is very much like the 5th dimension, because except in the 5th, so here's the thing, in the 5th dimension, everything is circular, it's always moving, and it's like a carousel, so all of these things are always moving, and your challenge, or my challenge really, because it is actually my challenge, because I'm the expert in harmonics and interdimensional harmonics and mass migrations, my challenge has been to, or your spirit guide's challenge too, is to make everything move around. Plates of spaghetti and cats and the person who needs these things, all of these things are moving. Everyone's walking around and everybody's talking and everybody has, different ideas and places to go. But really, all of these frequencies are moving around, and this is one of the reasons why sometimes things take longer than we wish they would, because we're trying to get a spirit guide's job will be to get this person who has these qualities over to this thing over here, but you have to do it by linking qualities, and everything is moving and everything is shifting and everybody's walking around, and your agenda is not the only one. We got that thing too. Like, other people want different things, and so you got to find a way to get everybody to get what they need. And it's complicated. So, but fortunately, you're prepared by the time you go up to, so let's say you start down as like a spiritual imbecile, a spiritual baby, and you have you're in a timeline because you need to learn to control your emotions, and you need to learn to control your thoughts so that you don't cause a catastrophe for other people. You learn to do that for yourself, and then you go up in dimension, and before you can go up into 5, you have to learn to do that, to balance your needs with the needs of another person perfectly, so that you are balanced, the other person is balanced. You're equally giving and receiving, but you don't have to like one another. They don't have to agree with you. It's totally a moot point. You have to learn to be a wise steward and a responsible steward of another person, and make sure they get everything they need. Not everything they want, everything they need. And we do that by moving people around. It doesn't always look the way you thought it was going to look, but you need to learn to be extremely flexible. And there's also a reason that certain, this is also, it works the same way if spirit tries to block you. Spirit will block you from certain, like, for example, like a lot of light workers now, those of us on the leading edge, a lot of us, speaking about the financial system, a lot of us have been unplugged from the 3rd dimension. We're not allowed to go down there anymore. It's not appropriate. Our job is to take everybody up. So we have to stop from a spiritual place. We need to stop reinforcing the old system. We can't keep creating that. I say a lot. Cancel. When we go up into 5, our thoughts create so quickly. We have instant manifestation that if we are thinking, if we are investing any of our energy into the old templates, into the old patterns, into the old social structures, into the old political structures, the legal system, we're going to wind up creating it, recreating it, and that's how you get trapped. It's not a good idea for us to, it's not safe. The further up in dimension we go, the faster our thoughts manifest, and it would be a further lockdown if we were to continue to use the banking system. It would be a further trap if we were to make a school that bore any resemblance to the old educational system. It would be a poor idea for us to continue voting or continue to add our high vibrational instant manifestation energy into a political system where, even though we're told that it's a democracy, it's really all about competition and control, and it's corrupt. You cannot continue to feed that when you have a high vibrational, very strongly creative energy. You do not put that in certain places. So you're going to be blocked, and it might be frustrating, but it's also completely appropriate. What has to happen instead is all the people who are able to function, who know what to do at the higher levels, who know how to join, who know how it works. We need to invest all of our faith, all of our trust, all of our networking, all of our love, all of our connection, all of our commitment to one another, all of our love, all of our trust into something that for the time being is going to seem fairly dicey. It's going to seem, if you're coming at it, if you're looking up from a place that has been quote unquote stable but was really a trap, it's going to seem very unreliable. somebody who has been conditioned and to feel quote unquote secure, but it's really not secure. It's really a trap. Stable, but it's really not stable. It's really confining. Doesn't allow for expansion, doesn't allow for movement, doesn't allow for anything new to get in or connect. Something way out there is going to be labeled crazy. That's, you know, schizophrenic, paranoid schizophrenic. If you do something that you are, if I go into a place like me, the way I am now, if I go into, and I definitely, as Joan too, actually less the way I am now, but more the way I was when I was carrying more of the Joan of Arc energy, it was essential. It was absolutely essential when I was carrying, when I had that job to do, because now it's dispersed. Now a lot of other people are carrying it. That happened the night Trump was elected, by the way. I'll tell you that story a different day. But it's true. I was carrying a tremendous amount of it. And in order to do that job, particularly at that time, it would not serve me or anybody else to be very empathic. You can be very sensitive and pick up on a lot of things, but picking up on the emotions of everybody else when everyone else wants you to drop your life path, if you know that you have to do the one thing that everybody is going to tell you not to do, but you know that that's the thing that you have to do, it's not going to serve you to be an empath. We actually made Joan of Arc that persona. We had to bring in qualities deliberately to allow for a large degree of narcissism, but it was also less narcissistic and more, what's the word? What's the word? I don't know what the word is. I don't think it has a word. It's something where you have to be able to absolutely ignore how everybody else feels completely, because there's something at stake. And also, it's the same kind of thing where, like, if you're going into a battle and you have a job to do, as compassionate as you are, because that's really the goal, right? You're trying to bring compassion to everybody. You cannot go into a battle and be a bleeding heart and stop every single time at every single injury. It's not going to serve you. There are certain walls that need to go up. You need to be able to call in that quality too, like a surgeon. I'm not a surgeon, but I imagine that's what they do. But so there were certain qualities that we brought in for the Joan of Arc lifetime that were, oh, here's another thing about the construct. In the construct, Josh, Carmen, me, Sarah Walker, Zoya Giacintov's in there. A lot of people are in there. Well, then, a lot of people were in there, but then millions of people were in it afterward. Michael Withall's in there. And then millions of people added, over time, have added their energies by virtue of being sheep, you know, followers. All the sleeping people are fair game. So you try, like, from the fourth dimension, when the construct was up and running, and parts of it still are, certain parts of it similar, very similar to, actually, as long as we were, this is the first live stream I've done since Notre Dame burned, and it's very much like that. Parts of it burned, not all of it. Parts of the construct came down. Certain things still need to be completed. There are certain things, the construct was designed to be a chamber for holding frequencies or holding energy from the people. And I know that in the disclosure community, I think I've got like 5 different topics of conversation going on right now. Sorry. In the disclosure community, there's a lot of negative talk about like the archons, the cabal, negative dark forces who want to you know, use us as batteries. Yes, that's true, but who want to hold on to our energy. And I will tell you that that is partially the case, but you have to be careful the way you look at that too, because there also was the only thing to do. Where else are you going to put it? If you have a planet, there's the way it came about. If you have a planet that is incredibly dense and nothing's moving, it's so dense that nothing can move. It's compacted. It's compacted. It's constipated to the point of solidity. And it's not even turning into a diamond. It's just compression, and it's toxic. If you have to get something to move and there's limited space because it's a 3rd dimension, then we had to take some of it out and hold it someplace else. What do you expect? Sometimes things get a bad rap that are not necessarily a bad rap. It's just we collected a whole bunch of energy, a whole bunch of energy. We took it over here and held it in a container. And are we using it to run off of? Sure. But in exchange, you're getting flow, and you're getting like the savior energy, the light energy actually gets in. It's able to penetrate. It's able to penetrate where there was only darkness. So it's fairly even trade, and we never intended to, we intended to just help the planet ascend. It's not something that was designed to keep, the construct itself was designed to help the energy circulate and promote growth, and it also allowed for free choice. So for some reason, I'm not sure. I feel like I'm going to wind up talking about that more in public. Like this is the initial stages where it's just like me and my own little. I put it on YouTube, but nobody pays any attention. It was labeled a kids show, and I do a live stream, but they're working me into it because they know I don't like fame, and they know that I really don't. I was injured the last time so badly that I never want to do it again. But they say, tough. You have to. We're breaking you in. We're easing you in easy. And then when all of this, when all of the energy that I was holding is delivered back to all of my people who have, who partook of it, it was theirs to begin with. They gave, let's say, someplace in the passage of incarnations and eons, because we started this at Moses, really. But I wasn't in the Moses lifetime. I came in at David, the divine child. My grandfather was he participated in the Moses incarnation, but I didn't. I don't think I was there. But I came in as the child aspect of King David, the one who took down Goliath. That soul was the same soul who did Joan of Arc, and once again comes in as the child, but it's a child who is, although the child aspect of King David was not the first indigo child. The first indigo child was Joan of Arc, because King David lifetime, they weren't ready for that even remotely. But I came down as a child who was very, very absorbent to higher dimensions and had a spiritual connection. I just hold on to that thing like a hermit crab. I never let go of it. And that is my guiding force all the time. And then you can do whatever the hell you want on the in the lifetime. And they certainly try to take you down later. God. But we are rewinding it though. And the point being though, that if you, in the course of any number of these incarnations, because there's so many soul aspects, if at any incarnation you have added, because the construct is enormous, it's global, it's huge, it has lasted over eons and eons and eons, and I don't even know how long an eon is, but it's long period of time. Whatever you as a soul put into it is coming back, no matter what it was. So if you added something to it, whatever was yours, you're getting back. And then as soon as it is all delivered and everybody has taken back everything that was theirs, I get to finally be in an actual relationship with another person. I won't be carrying an entire group like a father seahorse. And then I will finally be, it's odd because in one way I will finally be an individual again and have the luxury of thinking of myself as like my own identity. But at the same time, we're going to be in the fifth dimension and we're all in a group. So I guess I won't be a third dimensional individual anymore. And that's fine. I don't mind that at all. Anyway, I feel like this live stream is over. I know that I started to touch on some topics and then I stopped. I was going to talk about getting energy from objects. I think I'm going to do that on a different live stream. I use this space clearing bell. It breaks up energetic imprints in objects. So I use it all the time because objects can be haunted, and money is incredibly, a lot of bills, like the actual object of bills and such, they're very tainted. So I almost didn't say this. I got change back from some cashier one time, and I had the worst, this was like a couple of years ago, I had the worst experience one time of checking out at some store, and the guy was really unappealing, the cashier. There was just something about his energy that made, like, as turned off as I've ever been. Like, I do not like that guy. I'm not judging him, but there's something about his energy that, my God, that is disgusting to me. And he was wearing a wrist brace also, and all this guy did was hand me back my money, and I took it, and his hand touched me when he gave me back my money, and I nearly threw up on the spot. I couldn't, it was like it flooded my body, and I couldn't get rid of I couldn't drop the money fast enough in my purse, and I almost didn't want to hold it anymore. Like, I didn't know if the energy came off of him, or if it was because like his hurt wrist, or it was because of the money. But I know that when I touched the money, it like flooded my body with the most disgusting, revolting feeling that was so strong that I went over and I used those, you know, like those handy wipes they have sometimes when you come into big stores, and they'll have you wipe the handles of the cart or something. And I wiped my hands with those, and then I couldn't even continue shopping. I drove home and I stripped off all my clothes, and I didn't even put them back on, and I had to take a shower and clear myself, and I couldn't get it off myself. Sometimes that happens. And it's good if you're an empath to have animals around, because they clear, animals help empaths a lot. One of the reasons I've got so many, it's not the only reason, I have them because I love them. And I need I need a wide variety of, a wide array of beings around me for well-being, because I just do. But animals help empaths. So here's another thing about, I always say that I'm gonna end these calls, and I never do. I just keep talking. In the new educational system that's coming in, the environment is going to be important, because as we all go up in vibration, we learn to receive information in a wide variety of ways. It's no longer comes in our minds. We don't have to, in a linear way. It doesn't come in a linear way. And it's not like a teacher has to teach you things. You just simply absorb it from the environment in larger quantities, and you get information from all other beings. And you're going to be able to communicate with animals. And it's going to be in a very non-linear way, and that's going to prepare us for space travel, where most languages are not linear. Most language is telepathic and experiential. You just know certain things. You can simply put a thought into someone else's head. And then you can also know who sent it. And you can transfer large quantities of information. You don't have to spell the same way I wouldn't spell out my, can you imagine if I had to spell out my conversation with a 5-second delay between letters? How long it would take to get a thought across. And that's what it's like for us dealing with third-dimensional people sometimes, and they just still don't understand it again and again. And this is why when you get extreme levels of density, humanity stops developing. They're literally retarded. I don't mean it that in a derogatory way. They're literally retarded. They're retarded to the point where they are so slow that they're no longer developing. They may as well have Down syndrome, although Down syndrome has a certain wisdom they come in with. Down syndrome that's not what I'm calling retarded. People who have Down syndrome have a tremendous amount of wisdom, and we use people with Down syndrome a lot to get the frequency of the energy of whales. If we need to get that energy of incredible ancestral wisdom, very great array of ancestral aquatic wisdom from the oceans, if we need to get that inland, we send it on people with Down syndrome. How do you like that? And it's because they carry it. They merge with that frequency very well. And they're somewhat slower, but they're very loving, and they have a wisdom. Their gifts may not be cerebral, but that doesn't mean they are giftless. That doesn't mean that they're not carrying a frequency of love, and they carry it in such a way that it resonates out. They are gifted in a particular way. And we use that to send them inland where whales can't go. It's a gift. We need them to occupy certain positions so that we can get certain frequencies to someplace that it couldn't get otherwise. Everything occupies the position for a reason. This entire, the construct, the Joan of Arc construct, everybody has a role to play that is essential. And it can't, sometimes it can be done with somebody else, but like there was a, where's my, my pyramid, I'll leave it over there. Remember that pyramid that I had that I was using it to represent the construct? There were a pair of beings on each one of the points that have a specific role, and and actually it's 4, because it was 4, and then there was a rebalancing that has to take place before each rotation. So for example, if like Josh and Sarah shared a particular point, and after I balance things, if I had, before she quit, if I balanced it with Sarah, she would move, there would be a switch, and Josh would be the next one coming in. It's just the way it works. But there is a sequential thing too. Like all of these things, all of these things are moving and shifting in space. And everybody's thinking things all the time. So you're bringing new things in. So there are, and people move at different speeds too. So, you know, it's like sometimes you get, if you're a spirit guide, I'm not explaining this very well, but it's kind of like, never mind, I'm going to leave that point for a different day. I think you got it, right? I think you did. All right. My pigs are yelling. Is there anything else that I need to mention today? I can't remember. All right. If anyone wants to make a donation, please do. I discovered today that I have $3.51 in my bank account. If you are somebody who has booked or if somebody paid me $111, and thank you because I paid my phone bill, but you didn't book a session. So if somebody has paid for a session and they haven't booked one, send me a PM, and once I know that we've gotten your payment, then we'll set up a time. I feel like I've got, I know I've got a lot of sessions booked, but a lot of people, some of them are pro bono because it's just work that must get done for the collective. And you know that I will say this again, and I know I keep threatening to end this call. Every person that I work with, every individual functions as kind of an ambassador for their entire group. So whatever happens between me and that individual, I hold the group energy, and that person is like a single person, and whatever takes place, the transaction, whatever work we do between us happens for the group that I'm carrying and the group that they represent. And it's not important. I'm aware of as soon as I meet somebody, I know what group they're in. I can see what energy they carry. I can see where their blockages are. I can see where their weaknesses are. So if darkness is going to try and take them down, I can see where that is. I can see where their vulnerability is. That's very evident. So I can help people ascend real well, and I can look at somebody and say, okay, this is what we're here to address with you. It may not be what you think it is, but I know what there will be usually messages that come in that tell me what we're supposed to address, what's appropriate for you at this time, and we will get you as far as we can get you. I don't think I'm going to be doing individual sessions for much longer because I'm being reassigned. So if you would like an individual session with me, now is a very good time to book one. I don't know when they're pulling me off. I don't know when this jump is going to be, but I know that there's going to be a jump, and they've told me that I'm going to be getting a lot more money, but my service is going to be increasing dramatically. And I'm also going to be, they keep telling me that I'm going to be moving. I don't know where I'm going to be moving, but I know it's happening. And that's all I know for the time being. Yeah, so make a donation. I'm going to put below this, so it's StephanieRHogarth@gmail.com if you want to go to PayPal, if you're listening to this on YouTube afterward. And if you're on Facebook listening to this and you want to go on, make a donation, would be very, very helpful. And I'm going to put a link on my wall right underneath. And if you've paid in the past and you didn't book a private session, send me a private message, and we'll get that established. Okay. I love you. You do. It's going to be so much fun when we get there.